Hello and welcome to Action Playbook Live. I am Gilles Gallant. You are watching the NFL pregame betting show here that we do every Sunday morning with the Action Network. We're also live on YouTube and Twitter, and it's Super Wildcard Weekend in the NFL. So we're going to cover all six playoff games today for the entire weekend. We're going to have player props, touchdown bets, parlays, but we're not just doing player props. We got a lot to discuss about certain sides and totals. So Nick Giffen is going to join us to talk about the luck rankings for Wildcard Weekend and which games we should be targeting for an edge. And Evan Abrams, our director of research here at Action Network, he's going to give us an update on the latest betting trends and market moves for Wildcard Weekend. And joining me off the hop are Sean Kerner and Chris Raybon. We're going to give our favorite props for Super Wildcard Weekend. Before we do, though, reminder, if you want to tail any of these bets, the easiest way, use the quick slips in the YouTube chat because we're going to be dropping links in the chat after every pick we make, and you can tail that bet, get it as quickly as possible, get the best lines and the best odds. And if you're watching on X and Twitter, hey, what's up? How you doing? At Playbook is going to be tweeting our picks from the show, so you can get the bet slips from there. All right, now before we get started, one last thing. Action Pro. If you want access to all of Action Pro projections, make sure to sign up for an annual subscription because access includes exclusive player prop picks from Sean Kerner, Chris Raybon, all the members of the Action Analytics team, along with those anytime touchdown projection tools. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today. Use code POD20 at sign up. One more time, that's POD20 at sign up for $20 off. Now, let's get started with some player props. And Kerner, you are first up. Where are you going for your first prop of Wildcard Weekend?
I'm going to go with Devontae Adams under 54 and a half receiving yards. Adams under 4.5 receptions was actually the first prop I locked in like on Monday, I think. That's all the way down to minus 160. So I want to pivot to his yards here. Still showing value under this, but this is his first game back from the hamstring injury that knocked him out a few games. So while I'm projecting him to return to his full-time role and be 100%, I'm still, showing some slight value on his under. So if he's somewhat limited or not 100%, there's just going to be more value here on his under. But this is, the most lopsided matchup of the weekend. You have one of the best teams in the playoffs and the Rams facing one of the worst playoff teams ever in the Panthers. So they're, 10-point road favorites here. Should be able to lean on the run more. Plus, Tyler Higbee's also returned. He returned last week, Jill. We talked about that,
Yep.
on the touchdown show. So that could help eat into Adams' target share somewhat. But this is also a game, it's outdoors. We could see some rain, wind, which would impact someone like Adams. So I'm projecting his median closer to, 49 and a half, and that's with him being fully healthy in his full-time role. So again, if there's any kind of limitations, it's just going to help the under even more.
Well, the double down fade on Devontae Adams, very interesting choice. And I think the one thing that I like too is the fact that you're going for these markets instead of trying to go for like the no touchdown market. Remember, we talked about this just before we came on air. Right now, looking at DraftKings, for example, I think it's like even odds for Devontae Adams to not score a touchdown. So, not great value here. I think this is the better way to fade it if you want to do that with the receptions and the receiving yards. So, Devontae Adams under 54 and a half receiving yards. That is Kerner's first prop. Raybon, you're up. Where are you going, man?
Let's go with Josh Allen over 7.5 rush attempts. Every time the playoffs come around, you got to bump up Josh Allen's rushing projection, injured or not. He just runs more in the playoffs when it's all on the line. And he's been over this number in his last 6 postseason games, even though he doesn't necessarily average that much in the regular season. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, very underrated run defense. But what that actually does is, they prevent explosives. That creates more play opportunities for the Buffalo Bills, which creates more run opportunities. And I think the Bills are still going to try to run because they're not comfortable with their wide receiving unit as a whole. And they tend to lean on the run even more in the playoffs. So the Jacksonville Jaguars this year, the only team to allow under 300 rushing attempts by opposing running backs. So we know the Bills are going to run. We know teams don't like to just slam their backs in there. There also might be, less James Cook, just explosive plays. That's going to create more play opportunities for Buffalo. Josh Allen's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. So love the over 7.5. I'm projecting nearly 9 rush attempts for Allen in this game.
Yeah, the Bills offense, especially over the last couple of years, been pretty conservative of how they like to go. Like you said, they like to lean on the run, and 7.5 rush attempts. That line just feels low. So yeah, great find by you, Josh Allen. Playoff Josh over 7.5 rush attempts. That is Raybon's pick for Wild Card Weekend. I'm going to do a touchdown prop here, but I'm going to go to the Monday Night Football matchup between the Texans and Steelers. I'm going to take Nico Collins for an anytime touchdown. It's my favorite touchdown bet of the week. The Steelers, they rank top five in man coverage and single high safety. That's a dream matchup for Collins because he leads the Texans in targets per route run and yards per route run against those coverages. And another reason why I like Nico here, just some good historical output of him thriving in the postseason, 4 career playoff games. He's seen at least 7 or more targets in all of them. He's scored in 2 of them. So I think he's very in range to be able to score a long bomb touchdown on this defense. So I love that pick for a touchdown prop for Wild Card Weekend. So I'm on Nico Collins anytime touchdown. Raybon, you are on Josh Allen over 7.5 rush attempts, and Kerner, you are fading Devontae Adams, doubling down under 54.5 receiving yards. So that's not going to be the last touchdown bet of the show. We're going to have more at the end of the show. Raybon, you're actually going to join me. We're going to give out some touchdown props more for Wild Card Weekend. Of course, Grant Nefer from Scores and Odds, he's going to be joining us in a bit with a touchdown lotto parlay for Wild Card Weekend. But Kerner, Raybon, why don't you guys take a quick break? We'll get you back here in a minute for Sunday Night Football. Let's talk now with Derek Hardy and see what picks he likes for Wild Card Weekend. We know, welcome back to Action Playbook Live. Derek Hardy with the Blitz projections, and he is here every week with us giving out his favorite player props, and it is Super Wild Card Weekend, Derek, so let's get super. What kind of props are we going to do today?
First one I'm looking at is Christian McCaffrey under 18.5 carries, minus 109 at DraftKings is the best odds on the board right now. Obviously, a scary one, a gross one. Nobody wants to bet against Christian McCaffrey, but I think that's why we're being offered value on the under here, especially in the playoffs. Star player props, you're not going to find value on overs. You're going to find value on unders for the most part. And I think that's the case here with McCaffrey. The Blitz is projecting about 16.5 carries for him, so like 2 carries under the line here. And I think when you look at the game environment, it makes sense. The 49ers are underdogs here, which is not always the case for them, but they're facing a good Philly team. So they're underdogs here, potentially going to be playing from behind and not able to run the ball as much as they would otherwise like to. And you look at the pace of this game, especially Philly on the other side plays very, very slow. They're very run heavy. They play a ball control offense, especially if they get the lead in this game. I think that's what we're going to see here. A lot of grinding out with Saquon and not as much opportunity for McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think we'd be more likely to see 18 targets to McCaffrey than 18 carries, just given the way he is used in this offense. So under 18.5 carries for Christian McCaffrey is the first prop from Derek Hardy. Where are we going with the next one, man?
Second one I'm looking at is not a star player. It is Jimmy Horn Jr. for the Carolina Panthers. Under half a reception at plus 160 at BetMGM are the best odds on the board right now. The Blitz is projecting a 46% chance of the under here, so not quite a coin flip, not quite a favorite to hit this, but at plus 160, really good expected value. In the playoffs, we tend to see role players, bit players like Jimmy Horn Jr. play less than they otherwise would. He's the wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers, and I think there's a chance that, even though he only gets like a 3 or a 4% target share to begin with, there's a chance he'll be on the field even less than normal in this one. We've seen Jalen Coker playing a lot more of late, running a lot more routes. That is taken away primarily from Xavier Legette. But in the playoffs, there's a chance that those routes go back to Legette, being taken away from Horn. So I'm kind of hoping that's going to be the case here. Even if it's not, it projects as a rainy game. And so this one looks pretty good to me.
It's funny too with Horn because if you look at his receiver metrics, like he has a really high targets per route run, for example, against like zone defenses and stuff, but he barely plays. Like it's such a handful of snaps, right? So it's either going to be like he's getting fed or he might not even see the field other than just maybe a couple of schemed up plays here or there. So yeah, under reception for plus 160 is the second prop up from Derek. And he also likes Christian McCaffrey under 18.5 carries. All right, you can follow Derek Hardy in the Action app at Derek Hardy. Derek, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Good luck.
We now welcome in Dr. Nick Giffen, the creator of the Luck Rankings. You can read up on this every week in the Action app, where he lists the luckiest and unluckiest NFL teams based on what we saw on the field. And we didn't have Luck Rankings last week, Nick, did we? It was week 18 because motivations are kind of up in the air. Rosters are kind of, you're not sure who's going to play or who's not, but they do apply for wild card weekend. So tell us, where are we going first?
Yeah, instead of going in chronological order with a game today, we're going to skip ahead to a tomorrow game because this is the biggest luck value of the weekend, and that is Buffalo Jacksonville under 51.5 points. The luck total in this is minus 1.76, which is almost at that minus 1.8 threshold where we would make this a strong luck under. But it's funny, if you just look since 2018 at all the playoff games, any negative luck total, it doesn't matter if it's 0.0001, negative 0.001. Any negative luck total has gone to the under 34 and 21. That's almost 62% over the last 7 years, right? That's a 55 game sample size there. And our schedule adjusted expected scores, which of course power the luck rankings, make this 47.5. Now I have to clarify, that's before adjusting for past injuries or present injuries, past weather, current weather, right? Because Buffalo has definitely played in some nasty weather games. So once you adjust for all of those things, I have this right at 50.5, which is below that key number of 51, which is one of the most common numbers in all of NFL, especially for, when the total is around that, it is the most key number. So definitely want to get 51.5 to get that 51 key number. The biggest reason for this, though, is the Buffalo Bills project for the schedule adjusted expected scores and then adding those adjustments for just 24.5 team total. And their current team total is 26.5. So I like the under here. I like Buffalo team total under. I like the Jaguars to cover and or win. There's a lot of reasons here. And I think Raybon made a really good point earlier when he was talking about, Jacksonville forces you into a lot of plays, which is going to eat clock, which is going to limit Buffalo's scoring opportunity. So I think, especially if Josh Allen's running the ball, that's running clock. I think this is just a little bit too high of a total here at 51.5.
I also think, and I want to say this on behalf of you, because a lot of the time you'll give out an under and people think like, oh, of course there's going to be points. And it's like, that's not what you're saying. Of course, there's still going to be some touchdowns scored. You're just saying it's going to fall below 51.5, not. So anyway, I just feel like I have to say that because I see that a lot of the time in the Discord or sometimes in the comments. It's like, Buddy thinks it's not going to score. It's like, yeah, we're thinking there's going to be points. It's just not going to be 52 points. That's it. All right. So Buffalo Jacksonville under 51.5. So that is the first luck total play of the week. I don't think we have any more luck totals, but we do have a luck side
for Monday Night Football. But I went elsewhere with that. So
okay. All right. So where are we going with the next one then?
We are going to the Green Bay Packers, either on the money line or if you want to take them to cover the spread. I got them earlier in the week at plus 1.5. I think they're minus 1.5 everywhere now, but I make them -2. So, if you want to take the spread, if you want to just take the money line, but this is a degraded luck side. Has a luck score of 1.6 and a 55% luck-based cover probability. Luck sides are 7-4 against the spread in the playoffs, for the unlucky team. It's not a huge sample size, but it definitely jives with our other multi-hundred game sample size, especially late in the season, in the regular season. The expected scores from the two games these two teams played earlier this year, so not the actual scores, but the expected scores based off the underlying metrics, things like success rate, explosive plays, all of that kind of stuff, field position, etc. The expected scores from game one in Green Bay was 26.1 to 21.3 for Green Bay. In game two in Chicago, the expected score was 27.6 to 22.8 for Green Bay. So again, covering by 3, 4, 5 points, or I should say winning by 3, 4, 5 points by expectation in both of those games. And then also, I think a big reason here that we're showing value on the Packers from a luck side is touchdown regression in the red zone. The Packers rank 14th in red zone touchdown percentage, which is crazy given that they're third in offensive DVOA. So we should expect some positive regression there. Meanwhile, the Bears, they're 15th best in terms of preventing red zone touchdown percentage. And that's despite ranking 25th in defensive DVOA, or 22nd if you want to weight them more recently, especially with the addition of CJ Gardner-Johnson, but he's out for this game. So we'd expect some negative regression on the Bears allowing touchdowns. So if this game could come down to whether the Packers score touchdowns in the red zone instead of field goals. So that's what we're looking at here for Green Bay.
I think two of the matchups during the season, like both of them really came down to the final throw. I mean, you think of the first time in Green Bay, Caleb Williams throws that interception into the end zone, and then the second time he has to throw like a 40-yard bomb to DJ Moore to score a touchdown. Just it's a crazy matchup here, but yeah, you're leading, and the luck rankings are going with the Packers money line and the spread in this spot. So that's the first two picks: Buffalo, Jacksonville under 51.5, and Packers money line or Packers spread. I think I see a player. What are we doing for a player prop then this week?
Yeah, I was doing player props yesterday, and I got like through the first three games, and then I got to the fourth game of the weekend, which is San Francisco Philly. And as I was looking at Christian McCaffrey, all of a sudden all of his props moved upward in the market. His attempts move up, his yards moved up, and his longest rush moved up, not necessarily in the line, but in the juice. And so I was a little taken aback. I wanted to analyze things first, but I still like this. So I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey's longest rush over 12.5 yards. The best value out there is -130 at Bet365. If you only have over 13.5 available to you, I am fine with that. And I'll explain why. I took his under last week, right? His long was 5 last week. Yeah. His longest rush was just 5 yards last week. So I've been on CMC under longest like all year, but I think this is the time to go over. Trent Williams is likely to play his left tackle. I think that's very important when I analyze the matchup here against Philly, because this Philly run D, while they're good, I do think they're maybe a little bit overrated. They are 14th in defensive rush DVOA, so that's like mid-pack. But really the matchup specifics is key. Philadelphia allows a 6.7% explosive run rate on outside zone runs. That is 6th worst in the NFL, and that's 15 plus yards. We just need 13 here, right? So it's above 7% when you just looking for 13 or 14 yards. Christian McCaffrey, he runs the second most outside zones in the whole league, behind only Bijan Robinson. Over 45% of Christian McCaffrey's runs this year have been outside zone runs. So, we're getting what he does best. He has a 4.1% explosive run rate, which is pretty close to the league average on outside zone runs. So when you take this matchup here, we're getting that Christian McCaffrey should have an explosive run around 6.5%, 7% of the time. When, or I should say at least a 13 plus run on these outside zone runs, which means if he gets just 7, 8, 9 of these in the game, and even using Cardi's projection of 16.6 carries at 45%, that's 7.5 outside zone runs we'd be projecting using Cardi's, lower, I would say, projection. I'm more at like 17 than 16.6, which is still under the 18.5, but you get the idea. We're pretty much a coin flip just on the outside zone runs to clear this, and then you add in all the other runs as well for Christian McCaffrey, and I'm showing north of 60% to clear 12.5 and just shy of 60% still to clear 13.5.
Yeah, when I was looking at the Eagles' defense this year, I think from a passing standpoint, they're clearly much stronger on that front. I think only 2 quarterbacks this year passed for more than 200 yards on them this year, whereas defensively, we've seen them have some games where they've struggled to contain the run. I think of that Chicago game specifically. All right, so Christian McCaffrey, longest rush over 12.5 yards, Packers money line in the spread, and the under in the Buffalo Bills, Jacksonville Jaguars game. So those are the 3 picks from Nick. And that's the luck rankings for Wild Card Weekend. Make sure to follow him in the Action app, Nick_Giffen, for all of his bets and analysis. You can tune in to Bet What Happens Live for every game of the playoffs in Action Island. Tomorrow, you see more of Nick in the Action Network Discord. I'm actually going to be joining Nick tonight for Bears-Packers at halftime for Bet What Happens Live. So make sure to check that out. Now let's hear from Evan Abrams about the latest market moves and trends to know for Wild Card Weekend.
Thank you, Gilles. Let's start with the most unexpected of playoff appearances. The Panthers are in the playoffs after not winning a single game as a favorite during the regular season. They're the first team to accomplish that feat in the Super Bowl era. All 8 of their wins have come as underdogs. Right now, they're between 10.5 and 11-point home underdogs against the Rams this week. They are the biggest home underdog in the playoffs in NFL history. All right. Let's move to Pittsburgh now. This is just crazy. So the Steelers have started so slow in recent playoff games. They haven't scored a single point in the first quarter of their last 6 playoff games. being outscored 73-0 in those 6 games. And if you just look recently, Pittsburgh has scored 7 points or less in 69 consecutive regular season and playoff games in the first quarter, dating back to September of 2022. So going to have to start a little bit faster than that if they want to get to Houston on Monday night. Now, let's kind of talk full picture here. So this weekend, all 6 wildcard games are going to be played in outdoor stadiums. Since 2004, outdoor wildcard games are 49 and 23, 68% to the under. At 41 or higher in these outdoor wildcard games, ridiculous. The under is 42 and 14. Now let's talk playoff dogs. Since 2017, they are 60 and 38, 61% for almost a 19% ROI. In the wildcard round, these playoff underdogs, 27 and 15, 64% for a 25% ROI. That is the best round of any round in the playoffs for dogs. So good opening showing. And finally, a little trend from Bet Labs here. So underdogs who happen to miss the playoffs the year prior are 41 and 21 against the spread since 2017. Definitely Carolina, definitely San Francisco, and depending on the closing line, you could add Jacksonville there. So those are the trends for the weekend. Some stats. Enjoy the slate, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Evan. All right, let's take it up a notch. It's time to hit the lotto. This is where we get a little bit crazy and try to find a plus EV parlay for some sprinkles. And joining me is Grant Nefer from Scores and Odds. You can find him in the Parlay Science Discord, dropping bets every day. He's also co-hosting Bet What Happens Live with Dr. Nick Giffen at halftime for a lot of these playoff games. And of course, you know Sean Kerner. He's always going to find the value in those long shot markets, Triple Crown, OT props. We'll see. But right now, we're going to start with Grant. Grant, what are we doing for wildcard weekend, man?
Yeah, I got a 4-leg 39-1 lotto over at FanDuel. Let's start off. First leg, real ugly. Bryce Young over 189.5 passing yards. You can get this minus 112 over at FanDuel. I know it's ugly. I know he's not look great when you look at his box score all season, but he's going to be down most likely in this game. Rams big favorite at 10.5 points. They can be beat a little bit in the pass game. They are very good versus the run. I think Bryce Young is going to be forced to pass. He played really well versus them last time. Only 20 pass attempts, but had 206 passing yards. So he can beat them. I think he's going to be in for a decent amount of volume here. If you want, you can go with the pass attempts. I went with the yards, but either one of them, I like. It's over. Next up, we got a TD Parker Washington plus 200 over at FanDuel. Parker Washington has been phenomenal recently, and I've been on him the last 3 weeks. I'm going right back to the well here, getting it at plus 200 when he's got 9, 10, and 10 targets the last 3 games. Heavily involved in this offense. Even though Nick likes the under in this game, there's still going to be a decent amount of points here. Lawrence probably going to have to throw a decent amount. I know the Bills are worse versus the run and more of a run funnel, but still the passing game is going to have to be involved here. And with this many points, plus 200 is far too high. Next up, someone me and Jim have been on a lot. Juwan Jennings, and it's paid off so well.
Church.
Last week was the first time in the last 7 weeks he did not score a touchdown, and that's because the 49ers did not score a touchdown. I'm not expecting that here. Their offense should be fine in this spot, and Jennings is going to be heavily involved. Again, 8 touchdowns in the last 9 weeks. Just absolutely massive games out of Jennings recently, and getting him at plus 270 is an absolute steal, even up against a tough matchup in the Eagles. Last up, another ugly one, but I think there's some value on it. Lad McConkey, 40 plus receiving yards. You can get this at minus 114. If you want to go up to 50 plus, 60 plus, that's fine. I'm fine with any of those. I just went with a 40 plus to be a little bit more conservative, but I know he's been bad recently. But Herbert obviously been injured, had that hand surgery. He hasn't looked great, but he's also faced some tough defenses: Philly, Houston, Jacksonville, Kansas City. Now he gets a spot where he should be able to do some work of it against the Patriots, who are a good team, but have struggled defensively versus the pass. They've struggled heavily versus wide receiver ones. I know they have Christian Gonzalez, but he's not going to be shadowing him in all likelihood. Number 31 in the league DVOA versus wide receiver 1. So I'm expecting a decent game out of Lad, especially with Herbert getting a little bit extra rest here. I know he's behind a terrible offensive line, but 40 plus is just a little bit too low of a line here. So parlay all of them together, 39 to 1 over at FanDuel. It's a banger.
Well, I mean, each one of them sound very doable too. I'm already on Parker Washington and Jennings touchdowns. I'm considering just taking both Bryce Young and Lad McConkey as separate legs and then still parlaying this together. Because again, I just feel like all four very doable. So that is the Lotto parlay. I'll recap this one more time. Bryce Young over 189 passing yards, Parker Washington touchdown, Juwan Jennings touchdown, and Lad McConkey 40 plus receiving yards. You can get that just under 39 to 1 at FanDuel, and the quick slip link has just been dropped in the YouTube chat if you want to tail that Lotto parlay from Grant. All right, Kerner, you are up, and what are we going to do today? Are we going to do a triple crown? Are we going to do what are we thinking here, man?
Yeah, sort of a triple crown. I'm gonna attack these most passing, most rushing, most receiving yards of Wild Card Weekend. And first up, so I was able to, sim all these games and get like exact odds for every one of these, so it's pretty easy for me to find value. But for passing yards, I'm gonna go Drake May to lead the entire round in passing yards at plus 650 now. The Patriots had the easiest schedule in the league this season, so they were rarely forced into many, pass heavy trailing game scripts. And we saw what happens when he does get in one against the Ravens the other week, which I had as over, and he threw for 380 yards. So he has a massive ceiling, which is what you want in this market. And despite the Patriots being 3.5 point favorites, they're still projected to trail at a 13% higher rate than they have over the course of the season. So, he should throw a little bit more here. Plus, the Chargers use zone at a top 5 rate, and he has torched zone. All the games are outside this weekend. There's some games where there's going to be some weather. Other than it being freezing cold, weather's not going to be an issue in New England, so I like the conditions there for him. So give me Drake May to lead the weekend in passing yards. For rushing yards, it's pretty straightforward. I'm taking Saquon Barkley at plus 500. He should be the clear favorite in this market this weekend. Despite having a disappointing season compared to last year, he has come on strong to close the season. Cleared 120 rushing yards in 2 of the last 4 games. This is a great matchup against the Niners defense that is just, awful right now. Plus, they might be down multiple linebackers. So it's a great spot for him. Lane Johnson might be back, or should be back, which helps. The other, favorite in this market is James Cook, who we've talked about has a brutal matchup against the Jaguars. So give me Barkley at plus 500. And then my favorite one is to lead the weekend in receiving yards. I'm going to go Stephon Diggs at 22 to 1. I already mentioned, I'm high on May's ceiling in this spot, but Diggs is his favorite target against zone and his favorite target overall. And Raybon and I were talking about on the projections pod that Diggs has seen his playing time really capped for much of the season. They haven't really need to use him much because they've been winning so much. So this is a game he could see his playing time go way up. And his ceiling is going to be much higher. A lot of the guys that are atop this market, they're already playing every snap. So they're already at their ceiling. So Diggs has the most room to grow in terms of, just playing time. So give me Diggs to lead the weekend in receiving yards at 22 to 1.
All right. All right. Well, very Patriots centric here. So Drake May to most pass yards of Wild Card Weekend at 6 to 1. And that does obviously correlate if Stephon Diggs is there sitting there at 22 to 1, and then Saquon Barkley at 5 to 1. Very solid stuff here from Kerner. So, all right. So, Grant, you've got the touchdown lotto parlay. Kerner, you've got the leaders of Wild Card Weekend. We just dropped quick slip links in the YouTube chat if you want to tail any of those, and you can get a bet slip at your sportsbook immediately. So Grant, keep crushing it. We'll see you in the Action Network Discord for Bet What Happens Live. Kerner, let's get Raybon back on here. I want to talk about Sunday Night Football, talk more about this Chargers-Patriots game, because Patriots, again, around 3.5 point favorites, total around 46.5. I think we should build a same game parlay for that game. So if we had to do that, Kerner, what would you want to do for a leg of this parlay?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pop Douglas anytime touchdown here at plus 600. His playing time has been capped all season long, right around 30% routes run rate. But in week 18, he saw a 43% routes run rate, which was his highest since week 3. I think, part of that's due to Mac Hollins being out on IR. But also, heading into the playoffs now, I could see them giving Douglas specifically a little bit more playing time because he has more experience over other receivers like rookies, Kyle Williams and Efton Chisholm, who I love. But we could see Pop, right around that 45% route run rate here. And he's done a lot of damage in limited playing time this year. So if, he sees an increase in playing time, that'll only help. So, I'm projecting him closer to, 5-1 here. So showing quite a bit of value still at 6-1.
All right, Pop Douglas touchdown coming out of the gate hot with a 6-1. Nice job, Kerner. And he also gave this one out on the Touchdown Show podcast when we did this as well. So it's not like he's going turncoat and trying to pick somebody else here. All right, so Pop Douglas is the first leg of the parlay. Raybon, what do you want to do with this one?
Let's go right back to Stephon Diggs. Kerner already talked him up, and I just think Stephon Diggs is in for a big game in this one. So let's go Diggs anytime touchdown at plus 175. He has run a route on only about 70% of the Patriot dropbacks this season, which is very low for a number one wide receiver. Usually see that number up around 90%. And he's hit that, I think, once all year, and he's been in, the 80% a couple of times. So this could be a game where he kind of sets his season high in terms of his routes run. And if you look at the Chargers defense, a very good, well-schemed defense, they tend to take away a lot of what you want to do and just kind of almost force you to go to your top option, which a little different from some other good defenses, which try to limit the top option. But with the Chargers, it's been, if you look at their schedule adjusted numbers, they give up almost nothing to number 2 and number 3 receivers. They don't give up much to tight ends or running backs. So it's really just been number 1 receivers getting a lot of targets. So that really sets up well for Stephon Diggs in a game where the Patriots may be in a more neutral or negative game script too than they've been in for much of the year with just that great season that they've had under Mike Vrabel in year 1.
All right. Pop Douglas touchdown, Stephon Diggs touchdown. Those are the first 2 props. I swear, guys, I'm not trolling when I make this pick because I just think this was my pick that I liked before, and then I saw what you guys put in. I was like, well, I can't change it now because I still love it. I'm taking Drake May to throw an interception in this game, just given the pass frequency likely increasing. 8 interceptions this year, 5 of them in home games. This is actually going to be the toughest pass defense he's faced all year, according to end of season defensive DVOA from FTN. And the Chargers, they've got 19 interceptions this year. They're second in an INT rate per dropback, first in defensive DVOA versus the deep ball, which is what Drake May loves to do. And when you look at May's turnover-worthy plays this year, he's got 17. The highest rate was when he wasn't blitzed, and the Chargers blitz at the 5th lowest rate. They also play zone, a lot of too high safety. I think they're just going to sit back and wait for their opportunity to pick May off, which is why Raybon, kind of same thing of what you were saying, that they would probably just more force it to Diggs in that spot. So, if you want to parlay these 3 things, so this is Pop Douglas touchdown, Stephon Diggs touchdown, while also Drake May throwing an interception. I'm seeing it at least 25-1 at a couple different spots. If you want to tail that parlay, we just dropped the quick sip link in the YouTube chat. For me, that one's just silly. I feel a little silly now when giving out Drake May interception after those 2 touchdowns.
That makes it more likely. They're
going to have to throw more.
I hope so.
You just waste a drive. You just waste a drive for the other team, for the Chargers, and then the ball would go right back to the Patriots, and they would need another touchdown or something like that, especially if you got pick 6. So, yeah.
I'm feeling better already. All right. Good talk, guys. I love this. All right. So, Kerner, we're going to see you next week. Fantasy Flex podcast. You'll be there with Raybon. Plus, we'll be back next week for the Touchdown Show podcast where we preview the divisional round. We're going to have touchdown bets for every game. But now, Raybon, it's time, man. The Touchdown Show. And as always, we got to keep the Touchdown Show tradition going. And I've got Raybon here. He's got awesome angles, awesome edges that he loves to use. So as always, we're going to start off with the same format. We're going to work our way up, start with the lowest odds and work our way up. And then we're going to round it out with a touchdown parlay to get us out of here. So Raybon, I believe this first guy was actually your best bet of the Touchdown Show podcast. Who is?
Yeah, so we're going to go to the final game of the week. Well, I guess it's really technically the start of the next week, but the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Houston Texans game, Pat Fryer moved plus 380 here. And the Houston Texans, 5 touchdowns to tight ends, just 4 to wide receivers and 4 to running backs since week 13. This is a defense that is very good overall. They can take away your top wide receivers. And I just think Freiermuth here is going to be the number 1 beneficiary of that. Everyone's kind of looking to those Steelers running backs, and rightfully so. Aaron Rodgers has been dumping it off a ton, but DK Metcalf, even though he's going to be back, he's not going to be necessarily open as much as he usually is. So if you got to get one in the end zone, you're probably looking at Freiermuth as that number 1 read. If you're Pittsburgh, we saw, them double him last week in the end zone. at key times. So that just kind of shows what kind of target he is and what kind of respect he gets in the red zone. So I think he's the best bet here for the Steelers and just for that game in general, actually, to get in the end zone at these odds at plus 380.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with the outside receivers right now in the Steelers in this game at all. Yeah, so Pat Fryermuth plus 380 is Raybon coming out of the gate hot with a plus 380. I'm going to have to top that. All right, I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid. He's around plus 260, similar to what we just talked about with Stephon Diggs about that bubble wrap treatment. They've kind of used Dalton Kincaid in that same way. One thing that was really encouraging, Raybon, week 18, you actually gave this prop out on the touchdown show. They still targeted him a lot there in the first quarter. I think that was more just to get him some reps, get him back up to playing speed, because now they're going to need him here against the Jags. And it's a great matchup for him. The Jags, they got the fourth highest rate of zone. They're bottom 10 in targets, catches, and touchdowns to tight ends this year. And Kincaid, he leads the Bills in target share and yards per route run versus those coverages. So I think it's a pretty simple play here with Dalton Kincaid against that Jaguars defense. So that is my first touchdown prop, along with Nico Collins I gave out earlier in the show. Let's now move to our second prop. And you were looking at one for Packers-Bears.
Yeah, let's go with the kind of unsexy one, the forgotten man, DJ Moore at plus 390. And I get it, Rome Odunze back off the injury report. Luther Burden's been playing very well as of late, and Colston Loveland has come on. And they're playing, they're having success with those two tight end sets. So naturally, it seems like DJ Moore would just be the odd man out. But these odds are just kind of ridiculous now. I have him projected for a lesser role in this game with everybody healthy, and I still show a lot of value on this because for one, DJ Moore, he scored 5 times in the last 7 games. He's had a couple of multi-touchdown games, so this is a guy that can score touchdowns. He's going to get a lot of single coverage now with Rome Odunze back, with Luther Burden playing so well, and you got to cover Loveland too now on the inside. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities. And if you look at his splits this year, all 6 of his receiving touchdowns have come at home. The only time he scored on the road was a rushing touchdown. So he has this is just his spot. This is just his spot, and he's kind of been the forgotten man. I get it. As the markets try to project, they're probably bumping up Burden a little too much. Just given the recent data, and also Odunze, might not necessarily play his full complement of snaps in his first game back, and he just hasn't been as effective. So DJ Moore, I think, will be on the field. He's kind of been that constant for the Bears all year long in Ben Johnson's offense. Sometimes has ugly game logs, like he'll get 1 catch for -4 yards, but we've seen him do his work down the field. He's going to get single coverage. So I just think plus 390. I mean, I have him with very similar touchdown odds to Odunze and Burden in this game, and he's just priced way higher, way longer than them. So I think it's a great value.
Well, and more too, this is like his first season that he didn't have at least 100 targets, you know what I mean, since his rookie year, right? So, and the one thing about it too, like with his snaps and his route runs, right, like it's still wide receiver 1 level. He's just not getting as many targets. But as well, another thing too, facing the Packers, Rome Odunze is more of a man coverage beater than anything, right? So I think with the Packers playing so much zone and limiting explosive plays, I think DJ Moore, that's my favorite touchdown bet of that game as well. All right, I am going back to the Panthers side. I'm going to take Jalen Coker. He's around plus 330 right now. Really coming along in the second half of the year. He scored versus the Rams during the regular season. He had 3 touchdowns this year. We know that the Panthers are huge home underdogs, so that's going to imply a trailing game script, more passing. But he's really started to emerge as the wide receiver 2 in this offense. You're starting to see his snap share and routes run rate, like they've all increased as the season has gone along. Xavier Legette kind of taking a step back here, and the Rams, much like the Packers, they play zone coverage, top 5 rate. So I think what's going to happen is I think the Packers are going to shift their coverage more to Tet McMillan, given how they got beat by him pretty much last game. Like that was the deciding score. So that I think should open up more targets for Coker. So I love him at anything over 3-1. So that's my medium pick. All right, let's get spicy. And you're sticking with the same game. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, first game of the week, Panthers Rams. Let's go with Tommy Tremble at 6-1. And initially I thought Coker would have been the value, but the market has sharpened up to him a little bit. I like Tremble because the Panthers have started to increase their use of multiple tight end sets. Now, what that does combined with the Jatavian Sanders injury, he was their number 1 tight end for the entire year. Tremble was the number 2. Now Tremble's the number 1. and they're playing a few more of those 2 tight end sets. What does that do? That frees Tremble up to run routes. He's not really going to be your preferred blocker in any type of situation. So Mitchell Evans would then get that role if they play more 2 tight end sets. But if they just get behind majorly and have to catch up, Tremble's still that tight end 1, the guy that's going to be on the field along with, their 3 receivers every snap as well. So he ended up running a route on 88% of the dropbacks in that key game that they ended up losing last week. Did score in that one as well. I'd like him to do so again in this spot against the Rams, who do play a lot of zone. And I think you're onto something with them. They're probably going to have to pay more attention than they did last time to Tet McMillan. So really like Tremble, who has, over the last 3 years, he has 7 targets inside the 10 and he scored on 6 of them. Just a really good money option when they get down there. And Bryce Young doesn't have many of those. Remember, he's a short guy. He can't see that well. So the tight end, it's a little easier throw sometimes, especially against those zone coverages. So yeah, like Tremble at 6-1.
Well, Tremble's a touchdown show OG, man. We used to cash on him a lot in 2023. We could get him at like 22-1, like 14-1, and he is the king of the 1 target, 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. And that's why, at 6-1, I'm loving this spot here. That's a great spicy bet, Tommy Tremble this week. I am going to go to that Patriots game. I actually like Justin Herbert to score a touchdown this week. He's around plus 550. I bet you could probably wait till kickoff. He might even go up to 6-1, but I love him at anything over 5-1. So only 2 rushing touchdowns this year, but I just love the opportunity to be able to invest in Herbert's touchdown prop because he's 4th amongst all quarterbacks in total scrambles. And he really showed, even with a broken hand, his non-throwing hand, he's still going to try to run with the ball. He averaged just over 7 carries per game over that 5-game stretch with that hand injury. And the Patriots, they tend to play a little bit more man coverage, not like a top 5 rate or anything, but that does lend itself a little bit more to some scrambling. So I definitely could see Herbert calling his own number inside the 10-yard line. But even though I like Justin Herbert for a touchdown, I don't necessarily want to use him as one of the legs for the parlay. But I think let's build one out. So Dalton Kincaid, I think we both like him. You gave him out on the Touchdown Show pod, so we'll start with him. Love DJ Moore. So love the price on him that we're getting. And Raymond, I like Muth too, but because you made it as your best bet of the week, that really swayed me over wanting to take like Coker or Tremble, and then we could just split the difference with them. So I think we just do Dalton Kincaid, DJ Moore, and Muth, because right now, if you parlay all 3 of those guys, you can get a parlay right now at 83-1 at FanDuel if you parlay those 3. What do you think of that parlay, Raymond, before we get out of here, of Kincaid, DJ Moore, Pat Freiermuth?
As somebody who bet on the Panthers to cover, I'm actually glad we didn't put any Panthers in this parlay because I just gotta hedge my bets a little bit. It's an ugly spot for them. And then I think the thing that stands out to me about DJ Moore and Freiermuth is I think the touchdown market is very hard to find value. A lot of times when you're betting on touchdowns, you're just betting kind of like almost like at even value, maybe a slight edge. But I showed some significant value on both of those guys this week, just because I think they're a little bit forgotten. It's just hard to kind of project those teams sometimes. And then so that would make Kincaid the chalk. And I think as a chalky play, you want a Josh Allen receiver that can actually beat coverage because they don't have many of those in Buffalo.
Not on the outside for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And Buffalo may have to throw more than it has most games. This Jacksonville team is just rolling. The total's still over 50. So yeah, I love this parlay, and I'm low-key glad that we didn't include any Panthers, so we don't have to start our weekend off with like an L, and it's just dead in the water. We got a couple get that one out of there. Yeah,
they put up like 13 points, and the only touchdown is scored like a defensive touchdown or something like that. So
special teams are really good. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So again, parlay is 83-1 at FanDuel. Dalton Kincaid, DJ Moore, Pat Freiermuth. Quick slip link has just been dropped in the YouTube chat, so you can tail that parlay for wildcard weekend. All right, that is all for today for Action Playbook Live. We are Braybon. We're locked and loaded now, man. Action Playbook Live. We're going to be back here next week. We'll preview the NFL divisional round with our best bets. We're also going to be back here for Action Island tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to preview the Texans and Steelers and build a same game parlay for that game. And if you missed today's show, you want to get our picks, download the Action app because all of our bets are tracked there. You can get them as soon as we bet them with pick notifications. So I want to thank you all for joining us for Action Playbook Live for NFL Super Wildcard Weekend. Bon chance.